The Rif War, also called the Second Moroccan War, was fought in the early 1920s between the colonial power of Spain and the Berbers of the Rif mountainous region, led by al-Karim. The Riffians at first inflicted several defeats on the Spanish forces by using guerrilla tactics and captured European weapons. After France's entry into the conflict and the massive landing of Spanish troops at Hoceima, el-Karim surrendered to the French and was taken into exile. Despite victory, controversy in Spain over the conduct of the war led to a military coup by General Miguel Primo de Rivera in 1923 and foreshadowed the Spanish Civil War of 1936–39. Forces involved: Riffian forces. The Berber tribesmen had a long tradition of fierce fighting skills, combined with high standards of fieldcraft and marksmanship. They were capably led by Muhammad ibn Abd al-Karim al-Khattabi, commonly called Abd el-Karim, who showed both military and political expertise. However, the Riffian regular army was never a very large force. The elite of the Riffian forces formed regular units which, according to Abd el-Karim, quoted by the Spanish general Manuel Guarded, numbered 6,000 to 7,000. Other sources put it much lower, at around 2,000 to 3,000. The remaining Riffians were tribal militia selected by the Cades and not liable to serve away from the homes and farms for more than 15 consecutive days. General Guarded estimated that at the peak, in June 1924, the Riffian forces numbered about 80,000 men, although Abd el-Karim was never able to arm more than 20,000 men at a time. However, this force was largely adequate in the early stages of the war. In the final days of the war, Riffian forces numbered about 12,000 men. In addition, Riffian forces were not well armed, with weapons badly maintained and in poor condition. Spanish forces. Initially, the Spanish forces in Morocco were largely composed of conscripts and reservists from Spain itself. These peninsular troops were poorly supplied and prepared. Few had marksmanship skills and proper battle training, and widespread corruption was reported amongst the officer corps, reducing supplies and morale. Even with the numerical superiority, they proved no match for the highly skilled and motivated Riffian forces. Accordingly, much reliance came to be placed on the mainly professional units comprising Spain's Army of Africa. Since 1911, these had included regiments of Moroccan regulars who proved to be excellent soldiers. Following the difficulties and setbacks that it had experienced, the Spanish army began to adopt much in organization and tactics from the French North African forces garrisoning most of Morocco and neighboring Algeria. Particular attention was paid to the French Foreign Legion and a Spanish equivalent, the Tercio de Extranjeros, known in English as the Spanish Legion, was formed in 1920. The regiment's second commander was then Colonel Francisco Franco, having risen rapidly through the ranks. Less than 25% of this Foreign Legion were, in fact, non-Spanish. Harshly disciplined and driven, they quickly acquired a reputation for ruthlessness. As the number grew, the Spanish Legion and the Regulars increasingly led offensive operations after the disasters that had been suffered by the conscript forces. Course of war. Early stages. As an outcome of the Treaty of Fez, Spain gained possession of the lands around Melilla and Ceuta. In 1920, the Spanish Commissioner General Damaso Barangay decided to conquer the Eastern Territory from the Jibala tribes, but had little success. On the 1st of July 1921, the Spanish army in northeastern Morocco collapsed when defeated by the forces of Abd el-Karim, in what became known in Spain as the Disaster of Annual. Some 8,000 soldiers and officers reported killed or disappeared out of some 20,000. The Spanish were pushed back, and during the following 5 years, occasional battles were fought between the two The Riffian forces advanced to the east and captured over 130 Spanish military posts. By late August 1921, Spain lost all the territories it had gained since 1909. Spanish troops were pushed back to Manila, which was the biggest base in the eastern Rif. Spain still had 14,000 soldiers in Manila. However, Abd el-Karim ordered his forces not to attack the town. He subsequently told the writer J. Roger Matthew that since citizens of other European nations were residing in Manila, it was feared they would intervene in the war should their citizens come to harm. Other reasons included the dispersal of Riffian fighters from several loosely allied tribes following the victory at Annual and the arrival in Manila of substantial reinforcements from the Legion and other Spanish units recalled from operations in western Morocco. By the end of August, Spanish forces at Manila numbered 36,000 under General José Sanjurjo, and the slow process of recovering the lost territory could begin. Thus the Spanish could keep the biggest base in the eastern Rif. Later Abd el-Karim would admit, "I bitterly regret this order. It was my biggest mistake." All the following tenor of events happened because of this mistake. By January 1922, the Spanish had retaken the major fort at Monterrut and had reoccupied the coastal plain as far as Tistutin and Batel. The Riffian forces had consolidated the hold of the inland mountains and stalemate was reached. The Spanish military suffered losses even at sea. In March, the transport ship Wanda Jones was sunk in al-Hoceima's Bay by Riffian coastal batteries, and in August 1923, while shelling Riffian positions, the battleship España ran aground off Cape Tres Forques and was eventually scrapped in situ. In a bid to break the stalemate, the Spanish military turned to the use of chemical weapons against the Riffians. French intervention. In May 1924, the French army had established a line of outposts north of the Argla River in disputed tribal territory. On the 12th of April 1925, an estimated 8,000 Riffians attacked this line, and in 2 weeks over 40 of 66 French posts had been stormed or abandoned. French casualties exceeded 1,000 killed, 3,700 wounded and 1,000 missing, representing losses of over 20% of the forces deployed in the Rif. The French accordingly intervened on the side of Spain, employing up to 160,000 well-trained and equipped troops from metropolitan Algerian, Senegalese and Foreign Legion units, as well as Moroccan regulars and auxiliaries. With total Spanish forces now numbering about 90,000, the Riffian forces were now seriously outnumbered by the Franco-Spanish opponents. Final French deaths from battle and disease, in what had now become a major war, were to total 8,628. Outcome. The final attack commencing on the 8th of May 1925, the French and Spanish had ranged 123,000 men, supported by 150 aircraft, against 12,000 Riffians. Superior manpower and technology soon resolved the course of the war in favor of France and Spain. The French troops pushed through from the south, while the Spanish fleet and army secured al-Hoceima's Bay by an amphibious landing, and began attacking from the north. After 1 year of bitter resistance, Abd el-Karim, the leader of both the tribes, surrendered to French authorities, and in 1926 Spanish Morocco was finally retaken. However, the unpopularity of the war in Spain and the earlier humiliations of the Spanish military contributed to the instability of the Spanish government, and the military coup of 1923.